All right. All right, guys. We are live.
All right.
All right. So let me give everything a chance, all the blue lines to go across. There we go. We are live. We are popping. Hello, everybody. I am Brio of Solsei and Co. I know you guys are used to hearing that, so that's who it is. Mike.
How you guys doing? I am Mike Jones, aka Mike Jones, editor-in-chief for 23 Centuries Media, your source for media for the 99 and the 2000s.
Every time we do an introduction, he got another part to his introduction, y'all. I just don't understand.
I love it.
I have to know who's following along.
Shemsu-T.
Was Mike done? Mike, were you
I'm
done?
Listen, when you start talking, I am done.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shemsu-T, aka Rita Stewart. I am the owner and founder of Masterforce and the creator of Masterforce International Leadership Academy out of Chicago, currently living in Las Vegas. Thank you for joining us.
Yes. And Jeremy.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jeremy Kennebrew. I am from Chicago, Illinois, and I am the owner of Kennebrew Moving and Transportation, as well as Savage Performance Motorsports, LLC. And it's a pleasure and an honor to be here with all you esteemed individuals here today.
I want to thank you guys for coming on and joining me. Anyone who's been keeping up with what I've been doing knows that all of you have 3 individually been guests on the Black Quarantine Report. So I understood your level of thought. And in that, I was very selective on who I invited to have this conversation today. So the conversation that we're having today amidst the unrest that is happening in our country is let's talk solutions. I think that so many times we get pigeonholed in a place of complaining and where the problems came from and how let's talk solutions. So that is the basis of today's conversation. If you are watching this and you believe that solutions is a part of the conversation that needs to be had, please share this post, okay? So we're going to hop in. Now, the first of the obvious solutions that I would love to bring to the table is, of course, and y'all are going to see me use finger quotes sometimes, and I think that that'll kind of give my mindset on some of this stuff. But the rioting and looting that is happening in not only Minneapolis, but across the nation. Now, the narrative is that we, being African Americans, the Black community is upset and we don't know how to further control our emotions. So the narrative is being set that our anger and our pain is what is burning down and looting these cities, okay? That's what's being the narrative. Who wants to jump on that first?
I think we should allow the elder to speak, if you don't mind.
Are so wrong. You are just really.
Well,
you were talking about Jeremy.
No, I'm talking about elder and wisdom. I'm talking about elder and wisdom.
Go ahead. No, Mike, please.
I was very frank with Kim that you allow the elder with wisdom to speak because it sets the tone for things, because you've seen things that we haven't. So perspective versus practical knowledge always should lead.
Very cool. Thank you. So, I realize that we're having a conversation that actually spans many dimensions. We're talking to people who are just now realizing that there's something seriously wrong in our society, and we're mad about it. We're angry. And then you have another group of people who have been talking about this for years, and they're just tired of it, right? Which I'm not tired. And then you have another level of conversation where it's exciting. I mean, it's like, yes, we're finally, we got some movement. You all ready? So everybody has their own place. Everybody. And, I'm not into protesting in the way the young people are, but that's due to my own level of self-preservation, right? Yeah, right? and the way that people protest. But one of the things that I want to remind our people about is that you need to study the art of war before you just jump on the bandwagon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is your plan? I mean, you really, we're being pawns right now. Somebody has studied us and they know how to trigger us.
Yes.
They know how to get us moving in the direction that they want us to go. And I'm saying we have to make this an advantage for us. So, we need to add a little more wisdom, Mike Jones. We need to add some wisdom to our movement instead of just jumping out there. So
that's so heavy. I think, and what I'll be doing, guys, is kind of pulling and giving layman's terms for some of the people watching. The reality is we acting in emotion and we're not acting with strategy.
Yeah.
Mike.
So if I can jump in to her point, it was she mentioned, she opened up what I thought was great as far as explaining that this is a multifaceted fight. And as Kim, as you and I have spoken on, is the fact that if you think that there is one solution for the multi-headed Hydra, you're already fighting a losing battle.
Right.
So what happens is, as an analogy I gave in a previous conversation that we had, is that let's look at it more so of, we have the black card, the red card, the blue card, the silver card. This is an area. So you want to deal with the black on black thing? Let's do that. You want to deal with the police brutality thing? Let's work there. You want to deal with the economics? Let's go here. You want to deal with the starting independent businesses thing? Whatever area, they're all different areas that we have been lacking in comparison to any of our other racial counterparts. So pick a lane, go for it. So if this is what you're passionate about, this is what you should be focused on. There is no one universal solution that will not result in homicide. That's just, since we're keeping it all the way straight here.
Right.
So as far as where I see things, is that I see things in regard to what people are doing, the emotion and the prowess behind what's taking place. It's vital that, number one, it exposed the elephant in the room as far as the knee in the football game that was peacefully taking place. You didn't like that. You don't like this. Okay, so what do you suggest?
What do you want us to do?
So the whole thing is that either you want us to just remain docile and not speak and not say anything and just take it laying down, or those who criticize don't understand the full scope of the problem. And with that, you put yourself into a position to where now you're trying to explain to people, just as we opened up with the multifaceted problem, the people on the other side, they see their version of the problem. So now it's just like, I'm telling you police brutality. You're telling me black on black. Well, you're not qualified to tell me black on black because you don't understand the dynamics of what goes on in that community. You only understand what the news tell you. We live here.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So in these instances, all of these things, like somebody was mentioning all lives matter and Black Lives Matter. I'm like, I would have no problem with the statement all lives matter if it wasn't shouted down at the people who were screaming Black Lives Matter. If it was something that existed independent, like, hey, we're in solidarity with Black Lives Matter because all lives should be treated right. But when it's used as a tool, or how it's been portrayed against, hey, forget what you're talking about. Everybody's life matter. What do you mean? This is where the conflict comes, is that we're not sitting at the table having the conversations because these people who see it this way, they don't understand the dynamics of it this way. And it's not that I agree with everything that goes on within these special interest groups of any type, but this is what happens. Everybody is looking at it like it's just a micro, like it's everything inside of the washing machine all at one time.
Yeah. For the people that are listening, I want to tie that, and I'm gonna keep doing this, tying it in a bow for the people that are listening. What he's saying is, we keep saying, what's the solution to this problem? And we have a sea of problems. And there's a solution for this portion of the problem. There's a solution for this portion of the problem, etc. We cannot generalize that there's this one altogether go-to solution. Now, Jeremy, talk to me a little bit about the rioting and looting aspect from your point of view, being that you are the youngest person on this call. So I think that everybody around, we be like, them young people, so we throw it on y'all, you know? So talk to me a little bit about the rioting and looting from your perspective, and also the perspective of the people, the younger people around you.
I have to ask the elder, can I speak freely?
Please.
Yeah,
And use whatever colorful language you
Thank
require.
you, man.
There
Thank
we
you.
go.
Thank
Be careful now. Hold on. Don't make my ears burn too bad.
No, I ain't gonna go
down. No.
I honestly say fuck that shit up.
Right. Come on.
I'm gonna be real with you. Like young people, they don't come from that same, they've grown up different, right? They've been able to say what they want. They've been able to, live a lot more freely and move more freely than we were when we were kids. So if you got little, brothers and sisters that's, 5-6 years behind you, no matter if you're 40 or they're 35 or your sibling, they're 18, like we all grow up in different generations. So we grow up different. So our tactics are also going to look different, right? And young people are tired of not being heard. They're tired of hearing politicians throw them to the wayside because they're too young. They haven't lived enough, right? So when I'm a big believer in the fact that if you do not listen, if you block these groups of people out, you block their voices, you got to understand, like, pressure does something.
It's gonna bubble over. It's like if you shake that pop bottle.
Does something, like. Just every time I have this conversation, I have chills because I feel the pressure building up in myself. I've been outside my home in Matson, Illinois, and have had 4 officers, one being black, just literally out of nowhere pointed guns at me and say, I'm going to blow your fucking head off if you don't get the fuck on the ground. I'm in Matson, bro.
In Matson.
I'm in Matson.
Well, the Matson of today is not the Matson that I remember it as.
Right.
So,
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. This is your moment. Go ahead.
But yeah, so it's a lot of pressure, and I understand both sides, right? Because I'm a business owner. So if I came to work one morning and my stuff was burned down, I'd be ready to light the streets on fire. So I get it. People don't understand what it takes to build a business. Like, you sacrifice everything, and a lot of times you sacrifice a lot of people too that are important to you. Sometimes you sacrifice a lot of family time. So when you come and you see your business destroyed, that's devastating. But what you got to understand is, like, we have been, there are good black people, educated black people that aren't going to get on Facebook. They're not going to get on live. They're not going to get on Instagram. They're not going to do all these things and let you know what happened to them with the police. So I can guarantee you, these stories that you're hearing, there are so many more.
Yes.
And the more this stuff comes to light, the more people are realizing that, okay, it just wasn't him, or I might have been wrong for saying he was race baiting. Because that's what a lot of people that are on Facebook that are happen to be beige want to say we're doing. They're saying we're race baiting, and we're not. What we're doing is trying to share this with you, share our experiences with you, so that we don't have to get to the point where we're looting and rioting.
Exactly. So
that you can hear us, so that you have to see our pain. Do you have to see it? We shouldn't have to get to a point where, we're meeting violence with violence.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when nonviolence doesn't work, what do you want us to do? Shut up and dribble?
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Hello?
That's what they want.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. A lot of times, and I want to put this into layman's terms for people that are watching, especially people that are others who may not understand. Y'all ever been in a dispute with your significant other and you tell them real kindly, can you not do that? And they don't hear you. And you tell them real kindly, can you not do that? And they don't hear you. And it's not your significant other or your kids. I ain't got no kids, but I hear that this happens too. And it's not until you said, I said don't motherfucking do that, and you beat their ass, before they start going, oh, I think maybe I shouldn't do that. You understand what I'm saying? I feel like that analogy is a great analogy for people that do not understand where we're coming from. I understand that this does not look like it makes sense to you. You're going, well, what good does this do burning down your own community? I understand that logically this doesn't make sense to you. But what I'm saying to you, for you to understand, imagine that one time in that one place you were trying to explain that thing to that person. And you've been telling this lady at work, you've been telling this person at work, you've been telling them real nice, please don't do that. Please don't do that. Can you not do that? Don't do that. Eventually it turns into don't do that, or I will force you not to do that. So if we're in 2020 and we're looking at the basics of the civil rights movement, being in the 50s and 60s, how many years are we supposed to politely say, excuse me, can you not? Can you not kill us? Excuse me, can you not? Can you? How? I don't understand what the alternative is supposed to be.
Right.
It's. I think that a lot of people who are criticizing the looting and the rioting are not understanding. You put us here. You forced us here. We didn't want to be here. We didn't make this decision. We didn't say that this was the goal. It's almost like you forced our hand because you ignored us to the point that we don't know what to do other than kick, yell, scream, and shout. Like when your baby is crying and you ignore the child and the baby don't know nothing else to do but to holler, throw a tantrum. I'm going to lay out on the floor in the store. That's what you're seeing with the Black community. So understand that. Mm-hmm.
So Kim, so I'm glad you shifted to that, because that's the tantrum that a baby throws is because they have no other way of looking at the situation other than someone has to do something for me. And for those of us who are ready to do the work, there has to be an opportunity to sit back and observe, because everything, it can get burnt down. Now, who's going to rebuild it? Where are you in that conversation? And listen, it should have been burnt down a long time ago. And but we have to remember that there are social engineers who are creating society based on where they think we should be. We have to start being our own social engineers in our community. But before we can get to that, we have to observe. We have to be willing to study ourselves. And then here's something else we have to be willing to do. Do you know that there are 4 or 5 planets in retrograde in the cosmos right now? So you're mostly being triggered by the energy, and you're not even studying that because that's what you're not interested.
That's not cool to know. That's not in.
Or if you're spiritual, that's sinful, or it's the devil's. But yet and still, any astrologer would tell you, be mindful, because that energy is very strong and intense out there. You could get hurt if you don't know how to mitigate it. You see that?
Yeah. Now let me ask you this. Based on that, I want to ask you this, and I want to shift this same questions to you fellas. We talked about that, and in the analogy I used with the crying toddler, the toddler is doing this tantrum because the toddler don't know better. Let's be clear, okay? Yeah. For our community, what do we say and how do we respond to that person that uses that as an excuse and stays there? But we don't know no better. We don't know no better. We didn't have the opportunity. We didn't have the education. What do we say to the person that stops at that excuse right there and says, because it can be argued that our community has been they tried to keep us as toddlers, okay? They tried with everything in their might to keep us as toddlers. What do we say to those people who hold that as an excuse then?
It's a legitimate excuse. It's just not going to get you to where you want to go.
Oh, it can be true, but it's just not going to get us to the solution. It's not going.
I've raised 3 children in 3 different time zones, and I have a 25-year-old. He'll be 25 next week.
Hey.
And right. And I have been intricately involved with their life, including with the police. Several times having to, get them out, and they weren't doing the stuff that people do. It was just like you were saying, Jeremy, they just walk up and, hey, come here, let me take that car, lock you up, to the point where the police would call, and I say, listen, I don't come to the police station. If you took them, you either let them walk home or you bring them back. I'm not coming down there, But we have to really get clear that there are people who came to sacrifice themselves for our next level. Now, this is going into the metaphysical side of our existence because I don't play the game of death. That does not, I've buried so many people, including a husband at 25, that you can't stop me from doing what I do because of fear of death. Okay? And this is where all of us are stopped.
Yep.
So you have these millennials in here who don't give a shit about dying, and they will take you with them.
Yep. Yeah.
What we have to do is be prepared to build for that. So we want to build. We don't want them to die in vain, and there's nothing. There's just sacrifice after sacrifice, and that's
it's
what's
just
going
martyr
on.
after martyr.
Yeah, that's what's going on because of the emotional, the temper tantrums.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Which is the
so
emotional responses of it that don't lend to any goal or solution.
well, but those of us who know better have to do better. We're responsible too. And I know that my generation, we literally sold the children out. I'm clear about that. We took on that we could fit into corporate America, and yeah, we'll put the children in daycare and you just feed them and give them what you want to give them. And we lost the whole generation, poisoned with food and television and music. That's on us. And we have to provide the out. So we can't just leave it to just, let's just watch them die. Let's just throw them away. No, we all in this fight together. It's just that we all have a different perspective on what needs to get done.
Yeah.
And I'm doing my part.
Mike, I already see you. I see you shaking. I see the words in your head.
No, it's you always when you listening to people with wisdom and as much credit as I get, I only can give the credit to when I hear people who know more than me because they've seen more than me. You have to listen, but you have to do active listening. You have to understand what's being said and apply what makes sense and take mental notes of what you need to go and look up after the fact. So in saying this, my thought process is that it's like I was giving you the theory. It's like if I took an onion and I have an onion, it's so many different layers that one thing begets another thing. So before I can get to the core, I have to peel these different layers off. And I use the onion as my example rather than the orange, everything else, because it's so many different pieces to this. So much is built up over time that you have to literally dial it back all the way back to its inception point to really understand. So from situations that we as people endure in our day-to-day lives, one of the biggest issues that I see is a lot of us have bought into the information hustle. And we have information pimps that they have learned how to profit and monetize, selling you a ulterior, like an altered version of self.
Yep.
So needless to say, as per how we ended our last conversation, Kim, where it begins is even piggybacking off something that Auntie Rita said just a moment ago. That last portion that she mentioned about what the young people are doing and being prepared for the next phase of it. Well, here's where it ties in. You have this link that needs to be built, and this is part of the onion, and that's the generational divide.
Yeah.
Because you have some people who have the energy, you have some people that have the wisdom. If the wisdom and the energy don't meet and they cannot come to terms here, then all is in vain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the most important things is I can do all the planning that I want, but if the people that are within that age range that are out there in the street doing what they're doing, they don't trust me.
Yes.
Or they don't want to talk to me and they feel like you should be out here with us. But my wisdom says, I know this fight better than you think that you do. Just because you're emotional and you're ready to walk. What's next?
Right.
My wife and I, we were having a conversation earlier. And in terms that we were discussing, it was pretty much like, okay, great. DC, everywhere, like Detroit, or Wake Up, Atlanta, all types of stuff. Great. Now what?
That's
So-
my question. That's
so
my
this thing,
question.
so at maximum, this thing is gonna go for, let's just say, a week and a half. Let's just say
Right.
that before things come to a contained state,
Mm-hmm.
you've instilled the fear because it's what everybody's talking about.
Yes.
But you haven't instilled the demands to bring whoever's in charge to the negotiating table. So, okay, cool. They thought that we're going to take the guy in, charge him with 3rd-degree murder,
And this will
manslaughter,
stop.
and then, because we actually took the guy in, and then, but you got to understand that this is the traditional thing that happens. When you apply enough pressure, we're going to do what we do. Now, the thing is, like I tell people, we have the police force. They have to understand that when you look at the crest of a police, it has the letters, the fraternal order of the police. So for anybody that's a fraternity or sorority, you know that there's certain things that go on. There's certain things with your sorors or your frat brothers
That's
that
not
is
for
not to be
everybody.
discussed
Nope.
outside of that ordinance.
That's
so
right.
therefore, they have in their oath to protect and serve the public, but to protect and serve each other.
Mhm.
So therefore, when people say, "Oh, well, why won't the good cops speak up? Why won't the bad cops speak up?" Because we know why they won't.
Yeah.
We know why they won't. And it's like for us to be willfully ignorant to understand that it's like because we're emotional and erratic and think that, okay, well, the right thing is the right thing. Well, it's like, again, how we talked the other day. So they blow the whistle, they get ostracized. Are you in a position to help them feed their families?
Right.
What about you, Jeremy? Who got the financial means to make sure that we can protect the good guy?
Yeah.
Who's got the position to where say, hey, you were making $60,000 a year on the force. I got a $60,000 a year job for you at my company. You come on over here and I'll make sure that you're taken care of for being a good guy, for being a person. The only thing that you get is a pat on the back for doing the right thing, and then now you got to figure it on yourself. Thank you for keeping it real.
And now what?
So when so going back to that onion, we have these layers that need to be addressed. So therefore, if we are not in a financial or economic means to be able to protect the people, it's no different than if anybody's seen the Malcolm X movie and Elijah Muhammad was there with the glass of water and he pulled the dirt in and it's like, hey, drink. Well, guess what? If you wait long enough, eventually you're going to drink it. But if you have options, so therefore I could be part of a system, and I'm not saying the police force is crooked. However, you are, as one of my Italian comrades used to say, if the head of the fish is rotten, the tail shall follow.
Yeah.
Now I want to hold on to that. I want to stop you and I want to hold on to that only because you're going to solution 3, and I do want to keep unpacking that there. So before I'll be having to grab you. Now before we transition,
and then went to 3. I was like, wait,
right. Now before
that's why I told her I needed to write it down to make sure I stay on top.
Listen, y'all, I got the notes right here because I can't. We will get off, okay? Now, but let me do this. Let's do this in transitioning here, because what you did plant was a heavy seed that I want us to talk about in regards to rioting and looting. And Jeremy, I'm going to ask, and I'm going to have you start, and then Moo, if you have something to add to it. The question is, I'm understanding the emotions behind the rioting and the looting. We get it, okay? We explained that part. We got it. You pointed something out, Mike. What next? So for those that are out there rioting and looting and protesting and burning it up, okay, we get you mad. We get it. What is the next step in the plan? What does that look like? Do you think that those that are out there just literally don't have a next step in the plan? Has that been forgotten? Is this just an emotional act? Like, how does that jive? Jeremy, tell me your thoughts on that.
I mean, after the ashes clear, something is gonna be there. It should be if we get to a point, where a building or a strip mall is burned down.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a plan to put something there. Who are the planners?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, are we still going to be involved and have our voices out there and be at those community meetings and those project planning meetings to make sure that our people get those contracts, that those stores are there, to benefit our health rather than a Popeyes? Can you give us a Whole Foods, or can you give us one of those nice Marianos that you guys put? You know, can you give us, you know, something more, you know, than 10 liquor stores? Can we actually get something, you know, better than that? You know what I mean? Because we talking about, you know, low income communities. You know, like I have a friend that's up in Minnesota, and he was upset about the rioting. You know, and I felt for him because, you know, this is a working man, you know, providing for his family. You know, yeah, you know, most of us got kids nowadays. And if you don't, you know, you probably got a godson or a child, you know, if you're a brother or sister that you mentoring, that you trying to help provide for. And he couldn't even go get breakfast like he usually does. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was nothing there. He went to work. They sent them home because of everything that was going on. They just wasn't going to operate for right now. You know, so if we're gonna put our people through these sacrifices,
correct,
you know, and this it's emotional, it's stressful, like you feel it in your chest after you know been in for a few days. You know what I mean? Like, so after this, like, are we gonna, you know, the protesting is not gonna go on forever. You know, protesting is I don't see it happening on a heavy level consistently over months and months. That's why,
like
I think,
Mike said, it's gonna be a week and a half, and they're gonna be done.
You know, after a week and a half of us being on the streets, where are we gonna go? We just gonna go home?
That's my point.
Because we got an election coming up. And we can talk all we want about what we gonna do, and, you know, how we gonna improve race relations, and how we gonna combat, you know, systematic, you know, economic and geographic, you know, disenfranchisement. We can talk about all that, but we got a president in office, you know, that head of the fish, that I honestly believe if he's not out of office, or until he is out of office, what major things can we do? Like major. You know, this is the first task. This is the first test, is for brothers and sisters and people of color to get to the polls. That's my honest opinion. Like,
that was a solution that wasn't on here, but needs to be.
No, like, you know, if you asking what's next, like, it's very clear. Like, look at the calendar. Like, it's elections going. I think the first one is June 9th, and what state is that?
Yeah, I don't know. But
they're going between June and November. There are going to be plenty of opportunities. If you don't like I think Steven Jackson said it. He said, Stacks, if you don't like that prosecutor that sent your boy to jail, get out to the polls and vote.
And vote him out.
For somebody else.
Now, let me ask you, Moo. Let me ask you this. In regards to the rioting and the looting, and from your perspective, from a place of understanding, like you started this off saying, I understand that it's not going to get me to the solution, which is why I'm not out and I'm not a part of it, right? Understanding that for these young men and these young women that are in this right now, first of all, do you think they have a next step? Like Jeremy was saying, do you think they even have a next step in mind?
I don't think they do. And I also want us to remember that, you know, there's been a lot going on up until this point. So people were ready to blow anyway. You know, and that's why I said this thing happened. There were things that happened that were manipulative to a society of people who is known for their emotions. It's like a ritual. Okay. And some of us don't realize that there are things going on like that's used to trigger us to harm ourselves. Now, you know, I just happen to have lived long enough to have had to get out of abusive relationships. And one of the things that I learned was you can't ask somebody to stop doing something to you and expect that they're going to do it. you have to take the onus and the responsibility, to say, what can you give me? What nobody cares. Michael Jackson have told us that nobody's going to do it.
Anything, yeah.
So our steps in leadership, even for the young people, I want you to really assess and look at yourself. What are you doing inside of your home that demonstrates that you have a sense of leadership? Or is somebody still having to tell you what to do?
Ooh.
Then what? Yeah, and then there's family. You have people outside of your family right there that you can be assisting. There are young people that need mentors. You have to wait for somebody to ask you to do that so you can feel important and you see that there's a need. So these are steps in leaderships that can be taken if you're willing to step up and stop waiting for somebody else to do it. And Mike, you mentioned a great point, because every time one of those blue coats, something happened to them, a community of people get money behind them for their lawyers, their house notes, their family, and we complain about it. We think they shouldn't do that. We should be looking at how they take care of their own.
And teach ourselves and take care of us, each other like that.
So what do? Somebody do something wrong in our community, the society punishes them and family punish them too.
Exactly.
And then we say, oh, the suicide rate is up. Well, where's the home? Where is the community that can offer us? Oh yeah, this, because I don't know. I've been young and dumb. That's why I'm so wise now, right? I made enough mistakes and did enough stupid stuff, and I'm still alive because this is part of the mission. But we have to be willing to take on that leadership. No one is going to save us, and we need to stop asking people to do it. And Mike, we're going to get that economic piece of that, because that's, come on, we need to stop.
I was going to say, we can go ahead and shift there. Actually, now that's perfect.
Let me just chime in real quick on that. Jeremy, you had mentioned something about President Trump. I think that people need to realize that President Trump is what he is. And what I mean by this is he is a manifestation of something. The thing about an elected official is that they are a manifestation of what was already the climate prior to them getting here. So everybody blames Trump. Oh, he's excited. He's inciting this. No, he's not. And let me explain this. It's easy to have a scapegoat. It's easy to look at the top, but you have elected officials that you more than likely don't, not you, but that people don't know their names, aldermen, county commissioners, that's right there in their own backyard, that you only see flyers of them when it's election
They're running.
season.
Exactly.
Like the margins of the votes that vote them in are about 200 or 300 because nobody knows. They just get to the polls and, I've seen this name on a flyer before, so you voted in. The thing about it is the fact that where we have our power is in the local election. That's where our power is, because how our tax dollars are divvied up in our communities where we pay taxes is where our power begins. And then it shifts and it goes up and up and up. Because if I need to see something, if I have an issue in Matson, Illinois, I'm not going to write President Trump and then my state senators, then my House members, and then my governor. No, it goes from the bottom and it works its way up.
Yeah.
This is where my taxes immediately go. This is where my power is here. So Trump being the type of guy that he is, we forget that this man is a 30 or 40 year, his fortune is off of his media presence. This is what he is known for. He has been in almost every major thing. Before he ran for office, and I continue to say this and I stand by this 110%, if that MAGA hat was blue, everybody loved him. All the rappers loved him. Everybody loved him. If it was popular to like him, he was the most popular man in boxing, the most popular man in hip hop. So all this crap, if he was saying the same mess he's saying with a blue hat on, it would not be the same type of stuff. So we really got to get ourselves out of that. We allow our media. The reason why people like Kim and I went into media in the first place is because of the fact that people are so triggered by the perception of what things look like, because we were raised on CNN. We were raised on a biased media telling us what to think, telling us that we need to vote Democrat because that's what we do. That's what Black people do. If you have, we are more conservative in nature as far as our religious beliefs, as far as our values of home. We are far more conservative in most of our general beliefs, but yet we vote against our own interests every single time. Every single time. Because we allow people to convince us that we are victims. And all the Democrats have ever done is treat us like little lapdogs until it was time for election. And then after that, they go away. I.e., look at what Hillary Clinton did in the last election for the reason why she didn't get what she needs to. Outside of robbing Bernie Sanders when he was at the height of his career, let's also take into consideration the hot sauce incident at Power 90. What was that? Power 90, whatever, the Breakfast Club situation. She goes up there with the Breakfast Club. She pulls the hot sauce out, trying to show that she's down. You popping up at Black churches and stuff like that because you're trying to solidify the Black vote. Yes, all documented stuff. We really need to. We really need to first understand that.
Where's my pen? I gotta write that down so I can.
I'm trying to tell you, we so easy.
And I want to come back. I want to come back and respond to that, so maybe you can get a better understanding of what I was saying. Because sometimes I'm rather broad, right, stroked, rather than getting into the nitty gritty when I say what I say. But to go into context, what I'm talking about is more so politically. When your leader, your head in chief, the person that represents your nation, can go out and call people, Confederates and these people, the people down in Charleston, all, there were good people on both sides. When it can seemingly, because there is, no retort, there is no true, voice, opposition voice to that, for the nation, he is the voice of the nation. So when he says things like that, you start to wonder, are people thinking this is okay?
Well, here's the thing.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Let me. I got you. Hold on. I got you, Mike. Wait, here's the thing.
Let me. Yeah. But is it?
It is. What Mike is saying, which I completely understand, is the reality is we give Trump himself, this name, this person, this persona, too much power. What he's saying is Trump is the manifestation in one man.
Definitely. And
of the realities of what's in the people in the nation.
Oh yeah, and I'm not arguing that at all. But what I'm saying is how can we deal with it when he is, if he gets 4 more years, how can we can do some things locally, but he's still going to be handing out these triggers, and he's going to be heard worldwide. We may be heard locally, or in a few, if something unfortunately dramatic, like another brother's killed in law enforcement, we'll start to hear it, and more people will hear it. But when something like this is not going on, and Trump is making all these incendiary remarks and these racial leaning remarks,
triggers,
these triggers. If we give him 4 more years of pushing out these triggers, do you think we'll make any progress, or do you think we'll be right where we are?
I'll make my response real simple, and I'll dead it after that. Who's in control of their triggers, Trump or you?
You.
Oh yeah, definitely we are. Definitely.
Number 2, chicken or the egg? Did Charlottesville happen and then Trump said something, or did Trump say something and then it led to Charlottesville? Everything is response. Just like if you get Trump out, the people who support Trump or support ideologies that they say that he represents, they don't go away.
Right.
Racism doesn't die because the commander in chief is gone. And people have to really stop putting this off on Trump as if 1776 didn't happen, as if 1613 in Baltimore, Maryland didn't happen, as if Christopher Columbus and Cortez didn't land in the Caribbean islands. We really need to stop acting like this is the worst thing that has ever happened. The 45th president, the first president owned slaves. The second president was an abolitionist, but the third president owned slaves. Andrew Jackson is the reason why there's a Jacksonville, Florida, which led to the Trail of Tears, which is the reason why most of us so-called African Aboriginal Americans are in the Midwest in the first place. We really got to get out of this.
But it's 2020.
It don't matter if it's 2020.
No.
You still dealing with issues from
Go, but hold on, go, Mama Rita, go, Mama Rita.
I'm so grateful.
Listen, but we're in 2020. What I'm saying is,
Hold on,
That's
Jeremy.
what they telling you. So stop bringing up slavery because it's 2020, right?
Hold on. What I'm saying is, listen, what I'm saying. We're in 2020, and I said it's the first step for me in my mind. It's the first, like, for me, getting to the polls, for me, is really the first, and I said it's the first step for me is really getting him out of there. Because beyond November, I there's so many things that are gonna happen. This, people, you know how it goes. You know how the flow of like a major tragedy, like Laquan McDonald or someone like that. There's a kind of a downtime. And then the trial comes, and then it gets heated back up, and we really get back in conversation, and we get our energy back, and it dies out. So when she asked, what's the next step? I was saying that it's really to get Donald Trump out of office. That's the first step that we can, that's tangible, that's really close, that we can kind of keep that energy going. That's really my thing. I know that, racism didn't start with Trump. We know that. We know there's a history,
Everybody don't know.
Yeah, we've learned that. So I'm glad he, we had that retort so people can understand there's more to it.
Yeah, because
but from a group of people where I don't have to go into detail before I just say something.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, right now we have an opportunity to do something to, make I guess have a voice at the polls, really.
Go ahead, Ma. Hold on. No, both of y'all.
I'm done.
It's so interesting. I thank you, Mike Jones, for your voice, because I'm not as witty and quick on my feet, and you were able to eloquently speak the words that I would like to say about Donald Trump. But here's what we don't do. We don't study. Okay, so most of us don't know anything about how this whole nation is ran. Okay, and Mike gave he said, who the Democrats are for us. And I'm guilty too, because I grew up in a family where my grandmother said, oh, I vote Democrat. When I started voting, I voted Democrat.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, I started studying, like, wait a minute, what is Bill Clinton doing in office? And they calling him the Black president. Are they reading what he's doing? Do they know who this man is? Do they realize that they're hurting us as the people that put him in office? And then they changed the narrative, because in 1991, people who are in the control of the social engineering changed how hip hop music happened.
I was 3.
He was 3.
3. I was 3 at that time, but I've read.
No, let me finish this.
Yeah, but hold on, let her finish. Let her get it out.
Hold on.
Because in 1991, they decided that we need to have private prisons. And in order to keep those prisons filled, we need to drive our young Black men into the jail so that we could have new slaves. Now, this history is out there. And this is what created the generation of Black men that are incarcerated. And then the whole school system began the school from school to prison. That's out there.
Yep.
Yes, the whole pipeline. So you might have been 3, but you grew up in that era where your people your age were influenced, that because of who you are, we need to use you for something. And we don't want you to get a clue about what we're doing. And so we're going to put these leaders in your face and tell you what to think, who to think. And listen, you can call Donald Trump whatever you want to, but every time he says something, when he says something to trigger, he's doing it for a purpose. You need to study that. If you don't do nothing, learn to study your enemy, because I promise you they're studying you.
Now let me shift it, only because I don't want to rabbit hole us down here. And you just spoke a word, Ma. Let's shift.
I'm drinking water to that.
Yeah. Alkaline water, right?
Yes, alkaline. Out the
let's
jar.
shift it. I want to shift, and I want to talk about now, because we talked about politics. This is the perfect time to shift to this. Let's talk about Black economics and the power of the Black dollar. Okay. And let's present it in this general way of one of the other solutions that has been suggested to our community, which is not new. We've been suggesting this over the years and over the years and over the years, and we just can't seem to never unify and get it done. But what has been suggested is that we show our power by stopping the movement of the Black dollar.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, logically, on a zooming out function wide, that seems completely beautiful. Okay. But what has happened and what continues to happen is whenever we decided to do this a few years ago on Black Friday, we don't take individual responsibility for it. So the community could do this, but then this one person needs this new TV. And I really don't care about what y'all talking about, because I need this new TV. I just moved into my apartment, and this new TV $249 at Walmart. So I'm for the movement, but I'm finna go grab this TV. You understand what I'm saying? And I find us in that position a lot. As we discuss what that would look like and what solutions stopping that Black dollar would look like, let's not only talk about what that would look like for them, but what would that look like for us if we actually do it? Because I keep seeing us put these movements together to do it, and then it falls apart on an individual level. So as we're talking about economics, let me have Mike. I'm going to have you jump in and start this conversation on this. What do you feel in regards to stopping the Black dollar as a solution, as one of the solutions for our community's issues?
First and foremost, with all due respect, I think that the question is, if this was 1965, that would be a relevant question. Mm-hmm. We don't stop, we don't create, we don't do anything. And because of this, we can't have a stronghold on anything.
Unpack that.
Okay, so when you look at things that drive economy, it's usually a mixture of skills and services. So whether I'm giving product or whether I'm giving services. So one of the big things is that you have to go up certain levels of pipeline. So let's just say one of the big ones that come off top is like Black hair care. So if we just jump right into that with Black hair care, I think last year was anywhere between 11 to $13 billion that was spent. Okay, so great. We have more Black people who are in charge of, who have stores. Fantastic. On a microscopic scale, that is the equivalent of Floyd Mayweather getting paid $100 million for a fight. He makes that much to do a service, but there's somebody that's in a position to pay him that. So I look at that and I take that into this position to say, if you are bringing in goods or services and you don't have ownership of distribution channels to get it from wherever, if you look at, let's just say the origin of this country, you have to remember that this is a great experiment, what the United States is, the whole concept of capitalism. So when we compare the United States and a lot of the social climate that we have, we're talking about a 250 something year old experiment, or 230 year old experiment versus established nations that are thousands of years old. So when we take this experiment that we have and we just, as Auntie Rita said earlier, you study it. As you study the situation of where when they came here and they seen the sugar cane, cotton, the crops, they started to grow things in Virginia. And, saying despite the slave labor, they were able to trade and barter and create finances and send this stuff over to England and then bring stuff back and then to exchange this for this, to take this grain and take this back and forth. So there's a pipeline between America and European countries. Then over time, as technology started to advance, now we have a pipeline between us and the Asian countries. Well, when we start talking about a concept of a universal Black understanding, well, do you speak Haitian Creole? Anybody here? Mm-mm. Jamaican Patois?
No.
I mean, Spanish? Anybody?
Mm-mm. I see.
That's not it. What you have out of me?
I have friends in those places, if that makes any difference.
Well, here's the thing.
Yes.
And when we start talking about distribution, it goes kind of like with that illusion of Africa that we have as far as this Pan-African stuff, and it's just debunks Pan-Africanism as a whole. Until you actually go, you don't know. So therefore, I might be able to go to Nigeria and create something. Akon did it, created something for it, got a loan from China and did everything that he did for the rural, like what is it, 80 million people that he provided lights for in rural China. Not that I will be wanting to do business with China because that's a pretty much a debt slave system, but to not go too far off the rail, when we start talking about consolidation of the black dollar, one of my biggest concerns is the fact that people like to oversimplify these things by saying the black dollar. All black people are not created the same. We don't all have the same values. I have never owned a pair of Jordans a day in my life, and there's some people that they will wait outside in COVID-19 to make sure they got the newest pair. Hold on, but I don't want you to dwell on that. I want you to understand something, the fact that if I have a certain level of value where I might like nice things, or I might like to live in an area that costs more for me to live because the school systems are better and it's a lot safer and other things are within walking distance, whatever our vice is, when we start talking about the concept of community, Kim, you and I broke this down.
Yep.
You have black neighborhoods. You don't have black communities. So the whole thing is that a community is, there's 4 of us on this live. What we do when the camera goes off with one another is the formation or deformation of a community. So you want to consolidate black dollar. Okay, cool. You got a company, you got a company, you got a company, you got a company. If I invest in something that you do and she invests in something that he does and it goes back around, that black dollar keeps bouncing around. Very simple, very easily put. The problem is when you live in a place to where resources that are created by you, for how much shea butter do we need? How much rap music do we need? What other industries do we have a huge market share of that are useful and tangible that we can actually utilize and carry that to something else? What skills do we have that we can openly just say, hey, let me grab my child and I could teach my child how to work on cars, how to weld, how to build chairs, how to furniture, whatever the situation, what do we have in place like that? So go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, I love what you're saying and the direction that you're going, because one of my biggest things, and I'm agreeing with you, I'm piggybacking, is when we do this conversation and we talk about on XYZ day, we're going to just shop black, right? Okay. So here's the thing. Y'all want to support me, right? And y'all say, I'm a shop black and I'm going to buy one of Kim's Black Girl Biz Club pillows, right?
That'll go so well with my furniture, by the way.
Right? It probably would, because your wife is on point, right?
She is.
So here's the thing. Was that made in America?
I don't know.
That's a pillow and a pillow cover separately. That was printed somewhere else. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I mean, you just basically explained what I said as far as the
exactly.
The bottom, the
I
baseline distribution.
I regurgitated for the layman's. That's what my gift is. That's what I'm supposed to do. Okay. I take with all these beautiful fluffy things and I say, for the Negroes in the back, what he's saying is, that's my job. That's what I do.
Okay.
So if we're talking about it, I want to talk to these people who say, I'm a buy black, buy black, buy black. With all due respect, you can buy from your girlfriend, but understand that you're not buying black. You're helping support a middleman. I'm a middleman. Do you understand what I'm saying? I didn't source this. I didn't make this. So when I buy, and tell me and correct me where my mindset is wrong with this, anybody. When I buy from you some inventory from your black-owned business that you purchased in bulk from China, am I buying black? Or am I giving you $2 for being the middleman?
Just real quick, I'm in and out of this. 3 words, 3 of the dirtiest words in business history: agent, manager. Well, I forgot the third one. I had it in my head right then, but you guys know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
Basically, they're career middlemen, and they don't do anything but facilitate the deals. So be careful with the words that you use, because you can really, those are very lucrative careers where all you do is you don't run up and down the basketball court or up and down the football field, but you keep a great deal of the money for yourself. So
I'm not knocking it. I'm understanding.
well,
What
again, that's why I'm putting it out there.
Yeah.
In this situation, though, the one thing that I will say is that you want to be very careful with what you say because you're still talking to a fragile people. So therefore, what you're saying can be deemed as very defeating. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to come off as defeating, but I mean this with all due respect. And this is my opinion, and y'all comment on this or not. We are no longer at a place where I can be delicate with your feelings.
Well, it's not about feelings.
Hold on. Tell you in a way that's so soft. Now listen, baby, let me be delicate with your feelings. This is probably what we should do. With all due respect, it's 2020. I'm 34 years old, and I grew up in a lie of a society that told me we was in a place where we was all equal, and I could hold hands with my Asian classmate over here in kindergarten and my white classmate over here in kindergarten, and they sold us a story that don't exist.
Wait, what the hell are you talking about?
So, hold on. No, hear me out. But so with all due respect for me, I'm feeling, no, don't look like that, but I'm feeling like when you say you got to be careful, we talking to a fragile people. We passed that point. So what I'm saying to the people, I understand in the movement is beautiful that you want to circulate the Black dollar within the Black community. But the reality is you got to understand if you're not really circulating the dollar within the Black community. If I go and buy 200 pairs of earrings from DH Gate in China or Alibaba, bring them home, then I go and get the cheapest boxes I can from wherever, and I get labels from wherever, and I package this up and I sell this, right? And my friends are buying from me. They supporting the Black-owned business, and they supporting me, right? But if we're going to be real and we're going to talk about it, we got to talk about the reality of that's not all Black money.
See, this
wait a minute. I want to catch up. I want to catch up. Wait. Wait.
Go ahead.
Go, Mike. Come on, Mike. Come on.
See, the reason why I had the face is because when I say you talking to a delicate people, just because your mind has gotten to a place to where you see something bigger than what you used to, at one point in time, you were at that novice level too. So you don't have the right to dictate where people should be. And please, for the love of God, the next person that says 2020, I'm just gonna have to mute myself for a minute. It does not matter if it's 30-30. If people are not ready, they're not ready.
Right.
I don't care how. So I'm supposed to go over to my 11-year-old daughter and tell her it's 2020. When I was 11, back in 1997, this is what it used to be for us. So you need to be ready because you got access to technology. No, that's not how it works. It's never gonna work that way. Hold on. Before you say something, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on a second. This is what happens, right? There is, like I said, that onion. So if you're going to get those earrings and those boxes and that Black dollar goes here, what are you doing with that Black dollar? Are you investing in somebody or planting a seed to say you should make the boxes, you should make the earrings, you should? That's where you get people out of the mentality of doing stuff that is like, I can plant the seed in you and then say, hey, here's an idea for you. You can be creating the gift boxes. So rather than me going over here to get them, there's a good market for you to do what you're doing over here. Here's how you make it, because it's on YouTube, it's everywhere for the information. And now we can break that cycle gradually, piece by piece, by planting the seed. But you got to start somewhere.
Put your hand down.
Me. Hold on. Pick me though. But here's my question for you. At what point do we acknowledge that there is a Black earring maker over there?
Mm-hmm.
There is a Black box maker over there. There is a Black label maker over there.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, we have to understand when the pieces are here so that we can put the puzzle pieces together. I'm not talking to people in the sense that they don't understand. If somebody here, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm saying those things, in my opinion, they don't have to be created. We have enough innovative African-American people in this country that I would argue that those companies already exist. What I'm saying is, hey, wake up, because they do exist. If we're going to really do this Black economic dollar thing, really make it a Black economic dollar thing.
So let me bring it to a place where we can start to get an overstanding or understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Claude Anderson. You all know Dr. Claude Anderson?
Very familiar. Powernomics.
Hello.
Yeah.
Let's start a study group. Okay. So if you want to start overstanding, most of us don't even have a clue about economics. Okay. So let's study. Let's get to it. Let's study so that we can then create 100-year plan
Mm-hmm.
that exists for generations way after us, right? But before we get to trying to see how the black dollar moves and all of that, we have to get to a place where we're clear about the value of who we are in our own currency here. So we have to study. So I really, everybody, Dr. Claude Anderson. You
I
can
wrote it
buy his
down.
book on Amazon. He has plenty of videos on YouTube. Okay. So you can do all the, hollering and screaming. When somebody said, oh, don't spend money on July 7th because that's, well, here's the deal. Why are we spending money anyway on Amazon? I mean, you already know, but guess what? I had to get some biscuit cutters.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I going to do? Not get biscuit cutters? I'm going to make my own biscuit cutters. I was tired of using the top of the jar. I'm not going to make myself suffer because I don't know a black maker of biscuit cutters. We're just not going to do that to ourselves. And we lack knowledge in economics. So study. That's all.
What does that look like for anybody hopping in? What does that look like? The alternative, the reality to it. I think that if there's anything that we can all say we agree on, is that us not spending no money on a certain day ain't the solution, right?
Hey, Jeremy, why don't you take this one, bro?
Yeah.
Well, because you're a multi-business owner. This is up your lane. Obviously.
Um, I love serving. I got into the moving industry. I mean, I got 2 degrees, and people like, I know guys working at, all types of Fortune 500 companies. And, when I first started doing moving, they were like, dude, why you do manual labor, dude? You got an MBA, you can go do it, And for me, it was just, I did it for me. I didn't do it for how it looked. And, for me, it worked for my family. It opened other doors for me. And for the most part, it's just for the love of it. So I would say that at the end of the day, if we are going to really make a change in terms of, us economically supporting each other, it really starts like your uncle has a plumbing service. Call him. It really starts with family and word of mouth. Regardless of where I get my shirts, we can really start to get into the details of if I can find an earring maker that's a black woman or man who's local, or whether I can ship it, somewhere in that we can get into the details of how we make those things within the black community. But the fact of just supporting a black brother or sister who owns a business, like there's an ice cream shop, what is it, Hyde Park, that's make homemade ice cream, and they're black, I believe, right?
She's black.
She's black. So, you've got all these unique businesses where, you're not going to find a dairy farm locally that's black owned. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really about just doing the common sense things, and supporting each other and just making that day, or it really doesn't, for me, in terms of, thinking business, it really doesn't work to have it as a day, because services don't work like that. So for a company like me, I'm a moving company, send me a move request that day. If you're moving, if you know you're moving in a month, just, think of those services that you're going to need, spend some, whether we do it for the month of June, we could do it Black History Month just as a symbol, right? And then that we can have that spill into other months. But the goal in my eyes is really just to just support a Black business, show your Black pride, by making the conscious decision on that day to spend the Black dollar amongst us. I think that's important, because oftentimes unfortunately when I get brothers or sisters, we want the discount. Oh, you a brother? Oh, okay, yeah. What can you do?
Hookup.
Yeah, you want the hookup, or you want me to do something extra at the end of the move, just because, you understand.
Because you understand we here.
Right. So, I want us to do it without, our hands out. Just give to a brother or sister. I think for me, and for my generation, I think that makes the most sense, rather than trying to go into manipulating where we make it, and, all the intricacies of all of that. The first thing to do is just to support each other. I think that's huge.
Go ahead, Marita.
No, I'm in agreement. I'm totally in agreement with that, because I've been life coaching and teaching for 30 years, and I promise you, people don't make sure I eat. But I don't do what I do for that.
Correct.
Yeah, and I have a different sense of how currency really works, and so my wealth flow is not going to come because you don't take care of me. And I do feel a certain way that our community, family, friends do not make sure that I eat, because I'm a go-to person. When someone's on some people's quick dials, I wanted to put out that, I did not get a stimulus check because
I don't work for the man. So
right.
My own business.
Be off the radar.
Yeah, I'm totally off the radar, right? And we really have to take care of our people.
Mm-hmm.
We just, listen, y'all, we just really do. Nobody else is going to do it.
Now we're going to transition to the last one, only because we keep going. Unless, is there an economic thing that anybody has on them that they want to?
As I've told you, there's certain things that I feel that there's certain things that you have to keep within the community.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain plans and certain things. So I will not discuss it over live video, because you don't give people the blueprints on how you plan to do things.
Hello.
So I reserve my conversation for anybody that wants to talk, or if anybody wants to pass information. I'm a firm believer what's understood need not be explained, AKA for those in a different generation, the game should be sold and not told.
Mm-hmm.
So my thoughts, the things that I've studied, I will give them to you in exchange for you going out there to go do it, but I'll never discuss it here.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I think that is a word in itself. I think that was a statement in itself.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to go and shift to the last one, which, Mike, I'm going to introduce and let you take the helm on, because you started touching on it earlier. Okay. I was like, boy, we on one. Okay. The last solution that I want us to discuss as a group is, the way that I worded it is infiltrating government and law enforcement. And the concept that has been introduced is that, hey, we got enough rappers, we got enough basketball players, we got enough of that. We need people in government, we need judges, we need lawyers, we need prosecutors, we need, etc. We need, and then as we talk about law enforcement, I saw a very particular status that said the way to clean up the Fraternal Order of Police is to become a part of the fraternity, right? You can't fix it unless you're in it. I don't know. Let's talk about it, y'all. How do y'all feel about it? I'm going to let you start, Mike, because you mentioned this earlier, but how do you feel about us taking a more active role within the society that's built right now?
I'm gonna choose my words wisely.
I know when you pausing, and I know why.
Everybody's got an answer for every question until it comes down to actually implement. So for somebody to say we should become part of the police sounds good. Sounds really good. Sounds really good, except for the one part is the fact that it's still a job. You still have to rely on somebody hiring you. And just because you want to do the job does not mean that you automatically will qualify for doing the job. And if I don't give you the job, prove it's racist. Prove I kept you out because of your race. Prove it wasn't something else. Prove that you didn't just score too low on a score. Prove that you didn't just say, prove that you just did not do better than everybody else in the police academy. It's not like our people are the most physically fit people walking around. So, and again, I'm trying to word this properly and not reserve what I say. When I like to make sure that what I say has some meat on it. We start talking about all these ideas about what people think that we should do. My firm belief is do it then. Do it. So if this is where you stand, everybody here on this panel is here because they did it. They didn't talk about it. They just did it. Consequently, when we start talking about having enough rappers, having enough this, having enough that, well, here's where the problem comes in. What else they gonna do? When we ask what else they gonna do, it's not because of the fact that there's a level of apathy involved in making decisions. There's nothing else that's attractive. I go to my neighborhood that I grew up in. The only time I see police is in a negative light. I was taught and I was brought up. Forget them. When they walk down and they drive down the street, we're supposed to hate them. That's what I was taught. So why would I want to be a part of an infrastructure I was taught to hate? So from young ages, you tell me the police are bad. Police locked up my dad. Police did this. Police are nothing but foot soldiers for a greater establishment. So therefore, if you think that by joining the lowest level, that the people who we put into positions to make the laws, that somehow we start here, that's going to solve the problem. That is, I won't say it's idiotic, but I will say it's borderline teetering the scale. It does not solve the problem. Instead, it just pacifies the problem with that statement that you made. Your Asian friend over here, your white friend over here holding hands, the illusion of inclusion. So you get involved, you feel like you're doing right until now it's time for you to do your job. So you think you're going to go walk up to your brother out there who was trained to hate them police, and you're going to walk up to him and he put a bullet in your behind. Now you become part of the establishment because they warned you and they indoctrinated you into believing the reason why you're on the good guy side and they're on that side. If they're not getting the same education about reform as you're getting about reform, it's a lose-lose. So we have to understand that a lot of the problems that we have are based on culture. It's based on what we teach our children from young. So if I teach my daughter that a man should respect a woman, but the next 17 men that she did not have fathers to teach her how to properly teach him how to properly handle a man, the culture is broken. So all those ideas, they all sound great, but all these people are full of crap. Because if they were not full of crap, they would do it and they would show us how it's done rather than giving us mouth service.
Marita, go ahead. Jeremy, I had muted you because your dog was barking and I'm having a hard time. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Nah,
Marita, do you have a response?
Wait, I want Jeremy to tell me about the dog because I'm interested.
So my dogs are trained. My dogs are well trained. Trust me. Like, yeah, we don't play that. So the dog next door, on the other hand, is a wild beast. Like literally, wow. Okay. So I apologize. No,
you fine.
Gotta love shelter in place.
I love hearing the dogs and the children. That's right. This is real life, okay?
This is real life.
Yeah, this is real life, you know?
That's right. Dog.
I heard that baby crying. My wife probably upstairs mad.
Now, I want to say to you, Mike.
Mhm.
Wait, you asked me to talk.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Because I thought you had no things. You would go ahead,
She
Mama.
was saying about the dog.
You know, so listen, our homes are fucked up. Our children are not being cared for. Okay? I mean, literally, the education system should have been, it's the same education system for the last 100 years. And we have parents that think that if your child go to school, they are educated. They are not. They're schooled. They're
Mm-hmm.
not educated. They don't even know who they are.
Cogs in the wheel.
Okay? So our biggest opportunity right now is family. I am so excited to hear these two men keep referring to their mates in the home life. That's where our strength is.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't grow up with a father, but the generation after me, all those fathers are real fathers. They take care, every man in my family take care of their children. Their children know who their daddy is.
Yeah.
And that's where we have to start. And we have to grow. We have to love the preciousness of family like it is everything. And then we can actually start to readapt a society to fit our needs. The police don't fit our needs. We have to listen. The Black Panther showed us a blueprint, but I'm like Mike, I don't want to tell everything. But we really do. We have to get back to taking care of our own. Okay? When you something go down in your house, you should be able to call uncle, cousin, something, not Popo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? But this is us cultivating. We have to do that. We're not asking anybody else to do that. We have to own this. I'm telling you, I can't say enough about how important the foundation of family is for our children. And if your family is strong, please support another family next to you as a model. Invite them to dinner. Mentor other young men who have families.
Yeah.
It's so important. I can't even emphasize. It's a spiritual component and it's a societal component. But if our children don't know they're connected to us when they go out in this darkness, we can't help them.
Yeah.
But if they do know we connected, you can send love and light, and I did it a many times to that child, and they will come home safe every single time.
Yeah. Yeah. That was heavy.
I
Now,
hope not.
no, it was good heavy. Now,
Okay.
Jeremy, I want to ask you this, Jeremy, because I want you to comment on just your mindset in regards to this whole idea of us infiltrating the government or the law enforcement and that being a part of the solution for our community. You muted.
It's not the dog. I'm muted.
It's not the dog. You muted. Okay, there you go.
I was just in there. I was in there with Auntie Rita. Yeah, she got me. I forgot I was muted. I wasn't even talking. I was just snapping. I would have to agree with Mike on this one. I've seen it so many times, and I don't say this to be negative. I don't say this to because I got bros that are police officers and they're awesome people, but you become a part of the cog. Like he said, am I gonna lose my job because I want to be a martyr real quick?
Right. Or my life.
This not every story gets put on CNN. Right. Somebody that don't happen every day. So am I like no, like you become a part of the cog. You learn how to survive to take care of your family. That's really what it becomes. When I became an entrepreneur, it wasn't sweet. I God forced me into it because I was dragging my feet. So there were some times where I had to figure out where, man, okay, I gotta make 200 this week to make sure this bill is paid.
Right.
Make sure we got food, and the car. I'll worry about the car bill next week. If I got to, I'll get out and just Uber for
Uber drive, Uber Eats.
Figure, you out, it ain't sweet. Not everybody is cut from that same cloth.
Right.
Not everybody gonna do that. Some people, this is what they dreamed of doing. And for a lot of people, they're not thinking of this type of conversation that we're having when they're, their lifelong dream is to be a cop. And that's that. It's not to be a martyr or to, they want to serve the community. That and most of their minds when they go there, that's what it is. So you can't expect people. And again, like how many of us, like just because a couple of us joined the force, how many people are on the force? Like what's the number? Does anybody know the number of people on Chicago, like any major police force?
I'm surprised Mike don't.
Right. Mike say,
Mike went to the keyboard like 1 second.
Good question, because now we're talking about percentages, right? Like,
yeah.
What would that?
13,500 officers approximate.
Okay, for what
city of Chicago?
Not even a lot.
Okay.
City of Chicago to police 3 million people. 13,500 officers.
So, what do we gain from that?
Yeah.
Like I don't tell you, Rita, shift my whole answer, because like family for me, like I was a wild child. I was one, I didn't mind fighting. I didn't mind bucking up, and doing whatever. College was a blur for me. I was the wild kid, but I was, before my wife got pregnant, I was, dealing with, mental stuff. But when I heard baby, and after we took those vows, it was a shift. Like I wouldn't necessarily chemically, it was a shift that happened in my mind that was like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, before the sun hits the ground, I'm gonna make sure that my family is okay.
That's right.
Like I find myself thinking like, damn, why am I sitting here? Like I'm telling my wife things and showing her things about my business, because if I die today,
you want it to continue.
I want to make sure that at least
she's taken care of
what she wants to do, that she has a business that she can run and be able to take care of our family until she, is able to make whatever transition she wants to make. Like that, I wasn't thinking about that, when I was 25, 26 even. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah.
So family is the first shift, because I really truly feel like that's gonna really shift our mindsets in the first place. That being around family and really, being and even if it's not your blood family, right. There's some families, some they say blood is thicker than water, but sometimes water is short thick.
Yeah.
But that ties into what I was mentioning about neighborhood and community.
Yeah.
When you part of a community, whether I'm here in Orlando or you up there in Chicago, no matter what happened, if you could pick up my phone and you can just, bro, I just need to get something off real quick.
Yep.
That's community.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what family is. Family is a culmination of communities. I remember, like, I talk to my dad sometimes and he'll be talking like, hey, yeah, you remember Miss So-and-so from such and such? Yeah, she passed away. And it's like they generation, they are so like, the families by their name. Yeah, Miss Weeks and Miss So-and-so and Miss So. Our generation, we don't even know our neighbors.
Right.
We don't care to know them.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting circumstance, but we always got to take into consideration. It's like, I like what you said as far as like the mental health component. And I don't know if you got that on your list or not, but I would really like to go overtime, and because that's a huge factor in our community that goes too often ignored. And I would feel like it's a disservice to any viewer if we don't get into mental health.
Well, let's get into mental health, and let's do it this aspect, because this is what my next thing was going to be. I wanted to thank you guys for coming for this reason. When I came to this, and I contacted y'all this morning, let's be clear, people watching, this was a this morning thing.
It was too early in the damn morning from
because y'all was all looking at it like
ready to go to work.
I have to give you time to think about it.
Like
But
I said,
I want
yeah,
to
before I
say
was
this.
cognizant that I said, yeah, like, oh, what did I say?
Yeah, because you had just went to bed.
Right.
But I
see?
want to say this. I need people to understand what happened in this conversation. Okay. And then I want us to jump into Black health. But what happened in this conversation is we entered with 3 predominantly popular solutions, okay, that are floating around the community. Okay. Those were rioting and looting. Those were stopping the Black dollar and touching Black economics. And those were infiltrating the government and law enforcement. Now, I want to be very clear in what I'm saying, that I'm not saying that those things won't have a positive impact, but I think that it's very clear through our conversation. I've come up with 3 real solutions from talking to y'all. 3 real solutions are: number 1, edifying and building our communities and families. We just talked about this. That is number 1. Before we touch any of this other stuff and worry about dollars and all of this stuff, is edifying your community and your family. Okay. The second thing that I've learned in our solutions is knowledge. We don't know. As a people, I believe that it's very important for us to have and put a cognizant mindset towards educating our people as a whole, and not just our youth, because it's no longer about our youth not knowing Black history. It's about us as grown people not understanding the intricacies of everything that we're living in. And if you can't understand all the intricacies of what's going on or where you came from, how can you make a decision on what you're about to do?
Absolutely.
And the third thing that I pulled from this is individual accountability. If you are a leader and you know what you're supposed to do, there's nothing any of us can say to make you step up and do what you're supposed to do. It is individual accountability for the leaders in our community to get up and lead. And what that looks like is not one solution, like Mike said. That looks like a leader that's focused on Black crime. That looks like a leader that's focused on economics. That looks like a leader that's focused on housing. That's what that looks like. Because the reality is, like you guys were saying, we try to make this the big Black problem, and it's not. There's a lot of problems within.
We sold that by Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, and when they keep talking about the Black agenda, that they never actually had a Black agenda, because it's like I've never seen it. Like I've never heard about it. I've never actually seen it documented on paper, but it was always a big talking point during the 90s. So just thought I'd throw that in there.
This Black agenda. And I think that those are important things for us to understand. I hope that anybody who was watching this understands that the solutions that we're talking about are beautiful in logic, but there are some core, foundational, more simple things that will lead to bigger change on the other side. That's building that community and family. That's understanding and having knowledge and wisdom and studying so that you know. And that's taking individual accountability when you need to do that. That's what solutions for our community looks like. It's not rioting and looting. It's not passing the dollar on this day. And it's not everybody go be a cop. That's not the answer. But these answers will touch inevitably every aspect of every Black problem that we have. Now, I want to give, first of all, because we've been going almost 2 hours now. If anybody gotta go,
Really?
Yeah, I know, right? If anybody gotta go, do anybody gotta go?
I got some time.
Okay, okay.
I got some time.
Good.
You mute.
I haven't
There
been
we go.
yet, so I'm good.
Now, Mike, I want to pass the baton to you because you just specifically talked about the importance of discussing mental health in this conversation.
If you don't mind, I like to waive my turn and go to Auntie Rita with this, because this is more so of her specialty. This is like literally everything that she stands for as far as mind, body, and soul. So I would feel like it would be a disservice for me to not pass this to wisdom.
Come on.
You know what? I'm gonna make you some cookies.
And I'm gonna eat them, baby.
There's gonna be special cookies? Can I have some? No, I'm joking.
No.
Haven't advanced to special cookies yet. Thank you, Mike. And that's so powerful. Most people do not know that I grew up with a mentally ill mother. I don't know if you knew that, Mike, but
No.
my mom was placed in a mental institution when I was 5 years old, and it it was my initiation to this path because my grandmother kept saying, "Oh, she lost her mind," and so in my little 5-year-old understanding, I said, I have to read and find out how to help her find her mind, right? If she lost it, I can help her. So we had the Encyclopedia Britannica. I started studying how the brain and mind work at a very young age. Never helped her, okay, and she's on the other side. Actually, she's this plant behind me that I pour libation to on a regular basis.
Mhm.
But what I want to offer is that there are tools, and there are three things that I want you guys to look up. Emotional freedom technique. That's EFT. It is a actual tool to help you move trauma out of your body, right? We have so much stored in our cells that we don't realize that what's moving us is that thing that happened to us when we were 5 years old. And we're mostly walking around as a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old or a 7-year-old. So emotional freedom tech. The next thing I want you to look up is Bach flower remedy. Bach,
BACH.
BACH, yes. And this is a flower essence that the universe provided. Bless you.
Thank
That
you.
the universe provided to us so that when we're going through emotional issues and we need to have a spiritual component to release in us so that we become to a higher understanding of what's going on, you can get one of these remedies. Now, I swear by walnut because it's a remedy that says when you take this, you don't give a fuck with other people. Oh, ooh, ooh.
You can do that.
My grandchildren might. I'm sorry, grandbabies.
She
Okay.
didn't say that.
Yes, I did. They know my mouth is potty mouth. But anyway, literally, walnut, Bach flower remedy. And then the third thing is breathing and meditation. Please study your breath. Your breath. And when you're studying your breath, find out about the Dantian, Dantien. That's a spot just below your belly. Now, what's going on in our life, we have to sometimes pull back from our emotions, right? Pull back from our mental and ground ourselves spiritually. And that's what's going to help us as far as mental health. If you keep prescribing to the drugs, it never gets to the source of your problem. It never does. And my person, the school Master Force Leadership Academy, we have certified over 400 life coaches through the curriculum that I started developing 30 years ago. And we have taught how to deal with trauma from our culture, from the perspective of racism and fatherless homes and neglect and rejection. But we've also taught how to empower from that. We have master teachers all over the world. So if you go to our website, Masterforce Leadership Academy.wordpress.com, right? Or Facebook, you will be able to find many resources because, like Mike, I give my stuff out free. Okay. Unless you study under me. If you study under me, you got to pay for it. But
You're paying for me.
the other stuff, so that's what I want to say. Our mental health is so precious. Turn off that TV because the programming is real. Even get off Facebook, go and take a hot bath, cuddle. Listen, our greatest asset is each other. Our greatest asset is each other. So we got to quit playing. We need each other. Community is going to be what saves us. Nothing else. Mike, did I do okay?
I think you did quite well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I want to ask a question if it's okay, and I'm sure Jeremy is okay with it because we did a whole episode of Black Quarantine Report. I want you, Jeremy, to respond to that from a place of understanding and receiving that wisdom, being the representative of us being the troubled. And understanding and accepting, because I think that it's remiss to say, and we talked about this in our episode, that as a Black culture, we don't, before we even get to the point of where we're saying these are the things that can heal us, we have yet to identify that we have some issues. As a whole, as a community, it's still taboo. You know what I'm saying? Now, Jeremy, we've already talked about this on another show, which is okay. But I want you to talk to me a little bit about the taboo-ness of it and how do we move from a place of it being taboo so that we can accept the wisdom that's given so that we can move forward.
I just said, we did touch on it quite a bit in our episode. But mental health in the Black community is one of those things where you be like, yeah, he might have had it, but we don't even worry about that. That's just Gerald.
That's just Uncle whomever.
Right. And, that's just how they are. How he is when he gets drink. When he drink, just hide his keys.
That's us.
But so we see the symptoms and we just wave off the symptoms because we don't want to even, is always that thing like we already got enough going on and we don't even need to deal with that, where that may be the problem why you got so much going on, I even think about like when the lady was sitting in front of me, my therapist, and I had like, you fill out this whole form. And I had kind of had an inkling, that something was off. Because when your mama tell you, that's when you know. So yeah, your mama said you ain't acting, you kind of off, but you fill out this form and you give it to her and they kind of go through this thing. And, they go through, at the time when I was studying, it was a DSM-4. They probably got the 5 or 6, whatever. But they go through the whole, they got the whole, they go through this whole thing where they, go through the 4 quadrants and figure it out. So she said, yeah, so I think that you are bipolar. And she gave me some other things that were in there, like anxiety and the depression. I had already had depression from grammar school and high school, so I knew about the depression. But when she said the bipolar, I was like, oh, slow down. Come on now.
Yeah.
I can do the anxiety.
Yeah.
I can do the depression because they told me that long ago. I'm aware of that one. But hold on, the bipolar? Hold on, come on. You can give me something better than that.
No.
I was like, hold on. I was like, hold on, no. Which bipolar? How so? And so she's like, well, you said that you were hypersexual. I said, what in the world is hypersexuality? He said, well, you didn't lose your virginity till you're 18, and you're now, I was about 24, somewhere between 24 and 25, something like that. And you have had over 100, 150 partners, and you don't know most of their names. Don't you see that as problem? Like, no. I was like, how did you just hook up? No, Jeremy, everybody doesn't do that. That's not normal. I was like, but I mean, all my guys brag where they lie, like, that's what we do. We brag. You don't know. It's in rap songs, So that's supposed to be normal, right? That's like you sleep with women, everything is good, and you just go about life, and you do it again. You brag to your guys when you see at a party, you point. No, that it's not normal, and it took me at in my 20s for sitting in front of a therapist for her to literally be like, no, like, this is not normal. Like, how has it affected your life? Well, that's why I'm here.
Welcome to why I'm
know
here.
what I'm saying? That's why I'm here. The hypersexuality, the lashing out, like just doing crazy stuff, like getting drunk and just like putting like all types of risky situations just to get a quick, adrenaline rush, or just to be, I don't know, just not even knowing I'm in an episode, I'm thinking I'm fighting. This is what I do. I get mad.
Wow.
Like I really put myself in some crazy situations. Like, so when she started like really going back and talking about these things that I was telling her, more than just the alcohol, the hypersexuality, the sudden mood changes, the the PTS, the trauma, like it's so much that it was just an overflow, and it's just like you just couldn't do nothing but sit there and be like, yeah, I can't really deny it anymore. When someone takes what you've given them and puts it right in front of you as a mirror, and you really have to be like, this is what it is, And now I have to not only accept it, and it's hard to accept it when it's like you go through that denial phase, because that if you tell people, like most people don't even talk about, like I've had more people that I know come to me and tell me that they're bipolar that you would have never known, only because they see me so open with my posts, just saying what I feel. I don't, and I always say I'm in a unique position because I don't work for anybody. Nobody pays my bill. Nobody can fire me. Nobody can stop my cash flow.
Right.
I've gotten to a place with, I knew in order for me to have good, be in a good, healthy place, is for me to have that outlet where I can say what I want and feel free, and not everybody has that luxury. So some people just hide it. They deal with it. They wake up every day and it's just like, it's robotic, because they don't want people to know, because people are going to look at them crazy. Like, I've lost a lot of friendships. People have literally like used that as fuel to a fire and told me to go kill myself, in an argument. So
wow.
People, like, it's not easy, it's not. Like, I can tell you countless situations where, like, people will literally push my buttons because they know if they do a certain thing that is just automatic, and it doesn't. And a lot of times, like I always tell people, like I say sorry a lot, because I've gotten to a place where, like, I know I was wrong. I know that happened, and I'm like, it was at that moment I wasn't in control, so I just need to be man enough to always, I just apologize. Not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody wants to be in a position where they're open enough where people know, and they know it's going to happen, but they know you're going to come back and genuinely apologize. It's a lot to unpack when you talk about the taboo, because it affects so many parts of how you operate as somebody with a mental illness. The secrets that you keep, it's deep. And I don't think we went that deep on ours.
We didn't, but I'm digging this.
But if we talking about just strictly the taboo, like you'll see, like I worked in a mental health institution. I worked at River Edge Hospital for a while when I was back from college. And like you see, like these kids are starting, like you have everything from pediatrics to geriatrics. And when these kids go back to school, because they like when they out of school that long, they know, oh, he had like I forgot, not they don't really come to ours, but all of the kids go to this one other one. So when they go back to the high schools, because I was also working on my MSW, so I was interning, and I hear them say, oh yeah, he's not in session today. Oh, he's over at whatever that hospital was. Like, it's just like, oh, it's a place for them. He's losing it. He's crazy. That's where he is. Like, and they'll be there for weeks. So kids, this is not just something adults talk about and it just seeps down to the kids. This is something kids are aware of when their classmates are absent from school, and they know that they go to see the psychiatrist for an hour every day, instead of going to gym class. These are things that kids pick up on very quicker than you think they pick up on. And kids, they know sometimes. Some people say they know better, some people don't. But kids argue, and they'll use that,
Mike,
so it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mike, I want to ask you a question because we ended our last live with you saying something that ties into this, and I'm going to give you one word and let you flow with it because you've used it numerous times. Honesty. Talk to me about the role of honesty and the role of the taboo-ness, that's not a word, but of mental health in the Black community.
I knew this was coming.
I know you did.
Yeah, you passed the buck.
We talk about honesty. There's like different layers of honesty. And you got selective honesty to where it's just like, don't ask, don't tell. If you ask me, I'll let you know. If you don't, I recently stopped drinking not too long ago. And I remember I was going through that phase to where I was telling myself that, hey, you know, my wife is one of those that she don't drink. So every once in a while, if I had one, she might, you know, join me, but she never actually finished one. She's not in it to do. So I started lying to myself, trying to justify my behavior because it was increasing like a bottle and a half of Jack Daniels a day, like a fifth and a half a day. It got to the point to where it's like I could drink a fifth and not feel drunk. Like I can literally just go about my regular day. So what would end up happening is that I saw myself going through this psychological thing to where I would switch liquor stores so they didn't see me too commonly over here at this one.
That's great.
So now I start going over here to this one. And then I start telling myself, okay, well, if my wife says something about it, then I'll stop. If she notices, if she happened to pick up on it and something, then obviously if she don't say nothing about it, then it must not be a problem. So I'm literally telling myself the same lie I was telling myself when I was smoking cigarettes. So what happens that I took it upon myself to say, okay, here's the crossroad. And I come from a family where drug addiction is a huge problem, or at least it was a huge problem early on in my life. You either go high or you stop.
Yeah.
I look at my little girl and I look at how I grew up in a house where drugs and alcohol was a big thing. So I decided I'm gonna stop. This is it. So since, let's say October last year, haven't touched it. People ask me, they look at me surprised, like not even a bed, not a cup of wine, nothing. Like I won't touch it.
Yeah.
I won't even be in the same room where it's being served at. If you want me to come out with you, hey, come hang out with this. Nope, it's done. And going deep into it is like even how I mentioned the cigarettes. I haven't touched a cigarette in over 10 years. Well,
That's
close to about 10 years. And what I tell people is don't think that just because it's been a decade that the impulses don't hit you.
They do.
Don't think that I don't want to take a drag when I smell that aroma. Don't think that every once in a while that menthol taste don't come across my mouth every once in a blue. It's just that you have broken it down so far, you're so far removed from it that it's easy to say no versus when you were first going through it and it was still fresh on your mind. But don't think that the hypersexuality, as Mr. Kennebrew mentioned, don't think that it's not still there.
Yeah.
Don't think that the desire to do once you opened up Pandora's box, don't think that it's not there anymore.
Yeah.
So the honesty comes in realizing who you are for real.
Yes.
It's like actually being honest with you and saying that, you know, and it's like I said something the other day. I was on the phone with Kim and I was saying it right there in front of my wife and my daughter. And I said, inherently, I am a very negative person. However, due to my family, I have reason to keep it at bay.
Wow.
And the thing is that the deeper that you get and the more connected that you get to this thing that you've built, you realize that at a moment's notice, you're looked at as like, where people see you in the community like, oh man, Mike, you're this, that, you're so smart, you're this, and this. But what they don't understand is at a moment's notice, this can escalate to this, just like that. That if I wasn't completely honest with myself, and if I don't remain completely honest about myself, that at a moment's notice, I could start believing a lie, I will right back down that trip again.
Yeah.
And like I say, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that goes back to something me and Kim were talking about, because we were talking about, I said, the biggest thing for me that got me to a point where I could come off my medicine and, prepare to start having children, because I couldn't have kids while I was on the medicine. It just wasn't happening. And the biggest thing for me was check-ins, and I'm not talking about like once a day or twice a day. It's like being constantly present with yourself. You may get caught off guard. You're in a grocery store, you're on the phone, and then something just triggers you, and you lose it. You're distracted. But very often, if you make a practice of constantly checking how you're feeling, your emotions, your breathing, is your leg shaking? Like, what's going on with that? Is your heart beating too fast? So, those are because that's gonna tell you a lot. And it's gonna allow you an opportunity to make a shift, before it gets out of hand. And really, like, that comes hand in hand with meditation, like spending time with yourself, no distractions. Like Auntie Rita said, turning off the TV. Hell, you can even turn off the lights and just complete and utter silence.
She know who I'm pointing at.
Yeah.
So let me give you. This is almost verbatim to what I've said. Everybody ain't telling the same lie. So let me give you this part two, and then Kim, in the spirit, because of the fact that obviously you're the facilitator, I have a question for you. The part two of it is tying into meditation and knowing thyself. I have a theory that the brain, the heart, the mind, the spirit, they are all connected in a way that it's like a Rubik's Cube. I tell people that one of the reasons why I believe that people deal with so much is because we've never learned how to deal with the first trauma. We don't know how to deal with the initial trauma. So how we were taught is man up, don't cry.
Right.
Men don't do this. Stop acting like a punk. This is a common thing that regardless of race, denomination, this is a common thing that we hear over and over again, that you just have to wear this bravado everywhere that you go. There is no outlet or sympathy for a man. I don't have none. So my safe space is my wife. If I don't have my wife to unload and unpack on, then guess what? If I had a combative wife who didn't want to hear what I had to say, who wasn't there to be sensitive to me, I would spiral right back down into those avenues because I have nowhere to release.
Yep.
So the version of me that y'all don't see when the camera is off, that's the one that tells me, oh, shut up, stop that.
Yeah.
Cut that out. Stop talking like that. Jokingly, but seriously, because she knows my personality. Now, I feel like the brain is that is like a Rubik's Cube. And when you're sitting alone, it's realigning itself. But the problem is that when it's realigning itself, you're replaying things. But when you're replaying things, the emotions come with it.
Those things.
However, what your mind, body, soul is trying to do is compartmentalize those things and finally put them away. And it's almost like you walking into a room with a closet stacked high, and you start going through the closet and you get frustrated. You just throw everything back around and walk out the room. And that's how we treat our trauma, is that we would rather suppress it. We suppress it instead of going through the part and dealing with it. Therefore, like you break up with somebody, you have an initial heartbreak with somebody that you felt that you loved. And what do? You clean, you find busy work to do. You won't let yourself just sit there and cry and get it out. Because that's what the body was built to do, to get it out your system, to process it and to move it where it belongs so that you can move on and be productive again. We just unpack it. We go grab somebody else. We talk to somebody who's also suffering from a level of trauma all day on, and then we take
or smoke and drink to disguise it.
Well, no matter what the vice is that we refer to a distraction rather than allowing our mind, body, and soul to do what it was created to do. Our bodies are perfect and divine, and the thing that puts us in a place to where disease can run rampant is because that part of the body, those endorphins, that adrenaline, all those different chemicals that's running through your body when you're going through these different things, it's also aiding to those cancers. It's also aiding to it. So there is a release, a self-destruct button inside of your brain that releases these things throughout your body. And we don't take these things into consideration, education,
Yeah.
whatever other have you, sitting in front of somebody that actually has dedicated their life to studying this thing that help you navigate through it. So when I started really looking at myself, and when I talked to my wife and I talked to various others, I'm one of those people that I actually had an opportunity to talk to my dad and to tell him how I felt. And I gave him the riot act and I got it out. Everybody ain't so lucky.
That's right.
Everybody don't have the opportunity. So for me, I feel like my path. So Jeremy, just for because obviously, you know, we knew each other well in high school.
Yeah.
So when I was staying over there on Elm Lane, I was in foster care.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So a lot of what I was dealing with was trying to keep things concealed from the rest of the high school because I didn't want to be ridiculed about what I was going through. There's nothing worse than being labeled the group home kid.
Wow.
So you living in you're walking around and you're carrying a burden. You can never really cultivate a real friendship with anybody because you're constantly keeping the lie. Every time a new kid pop up, you are put in a situation where you have to be the bearer of the burden for the lie. You have to, you're the representative because you're the oldest of all these other kids, that you are the one that has to keep the facade going. So when anybody down the street or whatever asks, like, who is that? Where they come from? Oh, that's so and so from down the block. That's so and so from, that's a cousin of mine from such and such or whatever. And it's like it's a constant rotating stock. And because of the fact that in that area of Madison, it wasn't a very common thing that was going on out there. So one of the things is that I was never really able to assimilate coming out of the circumstances I was. And it's like I've told Kim, when you go from being in a destructive household to leaving that destructive household to go into a group home, into a semi-functional household, but still happen to be the bearer of such a heavy burden, to leave out of that situation, to not have any place to live, depriving, like literally relying on friends, finding your family and realizing that your family are now in your adult eyes worse off because you've seen something different. After being in the quiet suburbs, and I know that there's a different life. They don't, because they're still in it. So now you have to come back and you're alien to your home. So now you have to figure out how to navigate with this suburban education, this suburban mentality in the wild jungle. So you have to adopt these behaviors in order to assimilate, but you're no longer part of that. You were never here long enough to become gang orientated or to become, saying this street hood figure. So because of that, you have to wear an extra bravado to try to cloak the fact that you are not like them. So up until I finally made the decision to move, like my wife, I could say, saw the last of the true ugliness that I had to portray. And ever since then, she'd been working with me, but she took some damage to repair me. And when she took that damage, I had to, once I got to a place of trying to balance myself out, I had to go back and repair her. And we're constantly repairing each other as time progresses.
And that's deep. That's deep right there, because I'm on the same thing. Like, I was at a point where I could barely work. You know what I'm saying? Like, the medications had me out most of the day. And when I was on my feet, like, I was a zombie. I was, I was with her when I, half the time, I was out there just doing whatever, and, she stuck with me. She like, I don't know anyone on the face of this earth that would have done that. That would have stuck with me, knowing and I would warn her. I would, like, she was like, you used to try to warn me. You tried to get me away from me, because I would be like, I would pull up statistics about bipolar people and like the rate of divorce, just to try to because I loved her. I just wanted her to like get out of it, and she wouldn't leave, And for me, that was like, and then seeing her have my child, like I was talking about it earlier, like I watched her literally lay next to death to have my child. Like postpartum hemorrhaging and all. Like after that, like I made the decision, like, okay, you're not going back to work. Like, you can stay home, take care of the kids. Like, I got it from here. And if you want to go back, you know, you want to do real estate, whatever it is, we'll make it happen.
Same thing
You
here.
know,
Same exact situation
like
here.
I gave, like, you know, you just you give it, like you give it, because it's just like you, like, if you weren't there, I, like, honestly, I have no clue where I would be. I have no
to say something for y'all.
clue.
I do too.
I have to say, I need people to understand that are watching this, and I'm going to try not to cry. If I cry, I'm sorry. But I need people to understand that are watching this, that these are two examples of what they're telling us does not exist in our communities. They're telling us in our community that the men in our generation, these are millennials, let's be clear. They're telling us that we don't have Black fathers. They're telling us that we don't have cognizant Black men that are raising their children. They're telling us that we don't have responsible Black men. They're telling us that. And y'all, I'm here to tell you, we just talked for 2 hours, y'all. That narrative is a lie. And if there's anything that we can take from this in regards to solutions, if we as a community can remove this lie of a narrative that they have planted in us, that our Black men ain't on nothing, our Black men ain't shit, our Black men aren't husbands, our Black men aren't fathers, if they understood that that narrative was a lie, if they understood that that narrative was a lie, I really believe that so many of our issues would be solved, because so many of our issues are within our community.
Yeah.
Like you were saying earlier, we got enemies outside of our community. We don't need them within. And if it's anything that you men did today, I need you to understand, you showed an entire area of people who were told a narrative that men like you don't exist. They were told that men like you don't exist. They were told that you're unicorns. I'm here to tell y'all, these Black men are not unicorns in our community. This is our community. And when we understand what our community is, we don't even have to talk about having solutions, because we'll then understand we have every solution within us.
Within us. And I just want to jump on there and just say that I am so moved by both of you, your courage, your ability to articulate your pain in a way that shows us that you move through it and you still have to deal with it on a daily basis, and you do that. You know, that's the example. That's what I hear, that you're not giving into, I can't do this. And you're using your families as a catalyst for your greatness.
Yeah.
You know, that's it. Our children will have us be great if we surrender to them. And then I'm gonna do a plug here, because Masterforce is doing a series June 22nd through the 26th called Healing Waters for Men. And the way that you guys talked about your mates, I want women to get that we are the space of healing for our brother kings. I mean, we are the space that if we could just hold them up just for a little while so they can get through the pain of that little boy that was unloved and ignored and neglected. If we could just hold them for a minute. And if we hold them, it won't even take that long. But we can't keep beating them down.
Yes.
They won't get it from there.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm so honored to be with you guys. Your energy is amazing. I am full right now, you know. Just thank you.
I want to thank you guys for doing this. I know that we really have officially passed 2 hours, but it don't feel like it.
No.
But I want to
might have
thank you
chopped this
guys.
up in sections.
Man.
But I want to thank you guys. It takes, y'all, it takes certain people to be able to say we have to have conversations like this for the sake of the people.
Yeah.
And in order to have conversations like this for the sake of the people, we have to take our personal pride and put it to the side. And we have done that. And I want to commend you guys for even saying yes to have this conversation, for being an active part of this conversation, even when it was going to be ugly. This was needed. This was needed. In conclusion, I want to give everybody a chance to say whatever's on their spirit before we let this go, because I feel like this is a beautiful place and moment to leave this.
I'll say that for everybody, you know, I've been getting some texts that it's you know, people are out protesting. Is getting pretty wild downtown Chicago. You know, I know it's probably the same across the nation. I just want to say that, you know, at some point we have to allow peace and be still. So at some point we have to really make a shift, because this outward show of aggression we have to be honest, like Mike said. And the fact is that, you know, it's only going to get us so far. You know, we really have to do some communal things in order to get to where we want to be. We're all dealing with a lot. We're all coming from different places, and somehow we meet at this intersection of this burning desire for change. And there is no one way to do it. There is no one solution. There has to be a multifaceted way for us to get through it. And it has to start with family. It has to start with mental health. It has to start with each and every one of us. So that's I'll leave it.
That was beautiful. Okay. Either one, I will. I'm gonna take the moment of silence only to go through for the people. What are solutions that we came up with? One is edifying our community, building up our community and our family. The next is becoming knowledgeable and wise on every aspect of everything that actually touches us. The next one is individual accountability for the leaders. If you meant to lead, get up and lead. We can't coax you. We can't pull you. There's nothing we can say. And the last that I actually added was be honest about your mental health. And as people, all of us need to do more self-checks. Because if we all individually became better as people, it's common sense. If every individual becomes better, the community becomes better. So I wanted to leave the listeners with those as the solutions. Mike, Marita?
You want to go first?
No.
Okay.
She want to laugh.
Gotta say the best for last.
Exactly.
I got it. All right. So as I defer into my rightful position.
Wow.
What I do want to say is that this is a primary example of what a meeting of the minds is like. That every last one of us have our own individual struggles and our own individual passions. Yet this is how you mobilize. As you asked me to answer this question this evening, you have to shed off as many degrees of separation, the ego, the profession, the levels of degrees, and you have to come together for the common good and let that be the leading force. So I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what your economic plan is. I don't care what any of your thoughts are, until we meet here in a space that says, my brother, my sister, let's figure this out. Where do we start? Nothing else matters. So when we all got the text or the call to form like Voltron to make this thing happen, she chose the people that she felt was best fit for this circumstance. And based on what's happened over the course of this last couple of hours, that not one man, woman felt that they were the smartest person in the room. And that's why good dialogue was able to exist. So understanding that all of us being a subject matter expert in our own areas, we were all contributors. There was no master, no pun intended. There was no master of the ceremony and everybody else was the minion.
Right.
We come together for the sake of the common good. And that's how we build and create a community. So everybody learned something, everybody taught something, everybody leaves here on a better footing than they walked in.
Yeah. I want to say what I said earlier about the planets being in retrograde. And I do want to suggest that you go and find an astrologer, and I would give you my top 3. The first is the Awakened Magi. You can find him on Facebook, Timothy J. Glenn, the Awakened Magi or Awakened Magi. He's my personal astrologer. And get a natal chart done. In our tradition of the people that we come from, your child was raised inside of the spectrum of their destiny from how the stars were set when they came into life. And so you help them to find themselves inside of that pattern instead of what do you want to be when you grow up? But if you can teach them that at a young age, you can teach them how to meditate and download sooner so that they become self-actualized at a younger age, right? So the Awakened Magi, Sonia Marie, she has a wonderful program on YouTube Live, I believe daily, and then Aquarius Maximus. Understand that the cosmic energy does have an effect on us, and especially if you do not know who you are. And as you move into knowing who you are and you clear that, oh, that's going on and some stuff jump up in your face, you can see it for what it is. And you don't have to react to it because you already know, oh, that's energy that's moving. Mm-hmm. I don't have to let it sit in me. So, and again, I'm just going to thank you all for allowing me to sit in your presence. I am clear that masters are born from the womb, and you two have graced us in this life to help us through the journey. And I thank you. And I thank you for your work. I thank you for your compassion that you show for yourself and others. And I'm going to sleep good tonight.
Yeah.
I think we all are.
I think we all are. We're going to leave it on that note. Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you got anything out of this, and even if you didn't, please share this